What's up YouTube, Dale here from Zephyr, and today I am bringing you my third place Blue Eyes Invoked deck profile. So this was the first official local tournament I was able to take this deck to it, and I ultimately right at the last minute decided to go with the Invoked version rather than a Primite version just because I kind of prefer the Invoked version in regards to what it can add to the deck. I know that the Primite is considered to be the stronger version and probably with results is the stronger version just because what the Primites can offer, but I felt that this was a version that I was more comfortable with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through the list, show you what we've got, explain why we've got it. I'll even show you my demo side deck as well that I utilised. And the best thing about this is you can actually do it on a very cheap and tidy budget on top of it, which is really good. So my round one matchup was against Blue Eyes. There was loads more Blue Eyes than I was expecting there today. But the best thing about it was all of the Blue Eyes decks, I'm pretty sure, were all different variants. We had my one, which was the Invoked one. There was a Buster Blade variant running around. There was a Blue Eyes Bestial Primite version. And then, of course, there was a Structure Deck one. Now, I ended up facing the Primite Bestial version, which ultimately ended up winning the tournament. Second place was Yugioh. Third place was myself. And then round one was against the Structure Deck version of the Blue Eyes. Round two was against the Blue Eyes Primite Bestial, which I ended up losing. Round three was against Madolche, and then round four was against Yugioh. And it was all really, really good matchups, actually, and some of them were more awkward than they needed to be. So yeah, it was kind of a very good experience, and there's a lot of things that I learned. There's a couple of cards I want to be changing, and I'll talk you through them as we go. So with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell, and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more upcoming content. So starting off with the Blue Eyes lineup, I went with double Blue Eyes White Dragon, absolutely fine. There was a couple of times where I kept seeing this in my hand, so I really don't really want to. I wouldn't really advise playing 3 in this version, like 2 was more than enough. 3 Sage Advisor Blue, 3 Maiden, and the one thing that I regret? Jeez, my mouth is not working today. The one that I regret not playing is the Master. I really do feel that I would have liked to have had 1 Master in here. And if anything, I could see myself playing only 2 Maiden, but I kind of saw myself going into game 2 and 3 siding a Maiden out. Just because it's like the one that I don't want to be normal summoning. Like, I want to normal summon my Alistar, I want to normal summon my Sage, I want to search out my Maiden. So I was kind of happy with that strategy and it worked out for me. Another ratio change that I tried out was playing 2 Wishes rather than 3. This was just like a last minute change again where I was like, okay, I don't want my deck to be a 42 card deck. I want to try and get as close to 40 as possible. And I really want to get Ghost Ogre into the main deck. So I ended up cutting one of the Wishes down. And to be fair, it was absolutely fine. Yes, of course, there are times where if you hard open it up, you're in a better position. But I was fearful of drawing Lockbird running around, which I never ran into, thankfully. But 2 actually worked out quite fine. I don't see an issue playing 3, and I don't really see a massive issue playing 2. So it worked out for me, which I'm happy with. 1 Mausoleum and 1 Roar, followed up by 1 True Light and 1 Majesty. Like, these are all really powerful cards for the deck and strategy and worked out really nicely. And then for the Invoked engine, pretty standard on this one. Triple Alistar, triple Meltdown. 1 Terraforming, which actually put in a lot of work because the best thing about this one is I had hard opened up the Magical Meltdown. So I held back the Terraforming, activating the Magical Meltdown, and I was like, what I'm going to do is a lot of people, when they're facing Blue Eyes right now, they know that the Link one is the most susceptible part. If you stop the Link one, like if you Ash the Link one, they're still under a Dragon Lock, they still can't do anything, and then that's when you can go, okay, cool, Terraform and search out the field spell, which actually happened in the Primite matchup for me, which worked out quite nice, because I went Terraform and search out the Mausoleum, and it meant that my Link 1 Dragon had already used up one of their negates or interactions. And then 2 Invocation, pretty standard. And the last card that I played was the 1 Pot of Prosperity. So this was a 41 card deck. This was like the third wishes, sorry. And the reason I did this is I went full Family Guy meme on this one, unfortunately. I went, I could play a 3rd Wishes, or I could choose the random Pot of Prosperity, which could be anything, even a 3rd Wishes. So I went with went with Pot of Prosperity. I saw it like twice in my games, and the times when it came up, it actually puts in a lot of work. More times than not, though, I was only banishing 3 cards. And the only time I'd ever banish 6 is if my opponent, so basically I would do all my normal combos and then I would only activate Prosperity if they stopped me at a certain point. I'm like, right, okay, now that I've deck finned a little bit, let's activate Prosperity, see if I can find the piece that they've just stopped me getting to, and then continue to play from there. Or when I was going second, I was like, right, cool, activate Pot of Prosperity, this gives me more chance to see my board breaking cards, and then work from there. For the hand trap, it's pretty standard on this one. Triple Ash Blossom, 2 Bestials, 1 Magnum, 1 Druid Swarm, 2 Effect Veiler, 2 Ghost Ogre. Actually put in so much work. So in the Yugioh matchup, I hit Phantom Nightmare, which put in a bit of decent work on that one. In the Blue Eyes matchup, you hit True Light, really causes them issues, but you can also hit the field spell, and that causes them massive issues, because if you hit the field spell, it means they have to have hard opened up a Blue Eyes in the hand, which is obviously going to be quite tricky if most builds are only playing 2. And then obviously they don't get to send a Blue Eyes from deck to the grave, they can't attack modulate, they don't get their additional normal summon. It actually puts in a lot of work. 2 Nibiru. I think I got Nibiru'd once, but because I played it in a way where I was still able to extend, like I held back True Light so much during this tournament, like I very rarely actually activated it to bring a card back from the grave or set a card. I did it as like one of the last things I did. Once I was in a position, I was like, okay, well if they hit me or anything, if they go so great, if they stop it, I'm still in a good position. So 2 Nibiru, True with Infinite Impermanence, and then the last card was Cross Out. This actually put in quite a lot of work for me. In the Primite matchup, I activated Cross Out to hit their wishes, which is quite a funny one. I also used it to hit Imperm. There was a couple of times where I was expecting a lot of people, now that Blue Eyes has been released, that a lot of people are now going to have more access to Imperms, Ashes, Veilers if they hadn't already. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to play this for the off chance if my opponent puts in Dry and Lockbird, I can deal with it. If I don't protect myself from the Nibiru, I can be a little bit more lapsical and actually build my board however I want. And if they try and Nibiru me, I can Cross Out them. It lets me deal with Ashes at the right times, Imperms on the Dragons, Ghost Ogres on the Dragons. And there's a couple of times where my opponent Ghost Ogred me and I went Cross Out, and it really put in a lot of work. And again, Nibiru, Cross Out. So I was quite happy with having this in the main deck. It's down to personal preference. Some people don't like main deck and Cross Out, but I feel that especially in an environment where there's so many hand traps running around and you're able to play such a big range of them, it does put in quite a lot of work. So that's it for the main deck. Moving on to the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we've got 2 Invoked Macabre. I cut out the Agedes, and the reason that I cut out the Agedes is because I go first, I make Macabre, and then in my second turn, I can still normal summon Alistair, make a second Macabre. Obviously not in an ideal scenario. It's very rare that both Macabres are left on the board, and if one is left on the board, you're better off holding the Alistairs in the hand and then dropping them as a battle fader kind of, not a battle fader, sorry, as like an attack boost effect, which I did in the Yubel matchup, and they didn't really see it coming. So I went attack with Macabre and then activate 2 Alistairs in hand, putting it to 45 to finish the game off, which then allowed us to go to game 3, which ultimately ended in time. And then the last 2 fusions is the Tyrant Dragon and the Neo Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. I feel that these are both relatively staple. The best thing about this one is I had to double check it myself, is I read the last effect and just naturally assumed it was like target a normal trap card. It's not, it's target any trap card. So when the side deck got involved, I was up against Madolches, I was able to recycle my Solemn Strike, which was insane because I was like, okay, cool, no matter what they do, I'd rather recycle a Solemn Strike than recycle an Imperm. I was like, I'll just strike whatever they try and do. So that, pretty amazing. The only card that I feel that I kind of felt that I missed or didn't really have access to was the Blue Eyes Twin Burst, and that was only because in the first matchup against the structure deck version of the Blue Eyes, they made the Twin Burst, and I was like, this is actually really awkward to get past. Like, this is going to cause me a lot of issues because I can't destroy it by battle, and then if my monster attacks it, it doesn't get destroyed by battle, it gets banished. So I was like, I've got to negate it or bounce it, which is where Moonlight came in. So for the Synchros, I actually went down a more of a budget route. Is I went down with the Moonlight and I went down with the Lightstorm Dragon. This put up a lot of work in the Blue Eyes matchup because I let them build their board, and the best thing about this is not many people are expecting this to be mained right now. Sometimes it will do, sometimes it won't, but my opponent had Branded, Regained, and True Light up, and I made my Spirit Dragon, and then during my opponent's turn, or even during my turn if I wanted to, but I usually try to do it during my opponent's turn, is I tagged out the Spirit Dragon, went into Lightstorm Dragon then popped the 2 along the back row, and in turn that would then destroy their entire board. The best thing about something like this is this one is if this card is destroyed by battle or card effect, you get to target a spell track in your graveyard and set it, but it can't be activated unless you control a normal monster, which as long as you have True Light in rotation, you can constantly keep getting a True Light, a Blue Eyes back to the board, and then activate the card you've reset off of this, so it can reset wishes if you want to. So the one time that I did make this was in the Bestial Blue Eyes Primite version, and basically they went Seals, summoned out Bulldrake, which was actually a really kind of good one because I was like, okay, cool, so Bulldrake tributes off their Maiden, which negated some of this, but I went, okay, Spirit Dragon, anything here? No. Tagged this out into Lightstorm, doesn't negate the summon, sorry, banishes it. Went into Lightstorm. Lightstorm targets the True Light and the Regained, so it kind of puts them in a position of, right, well, I need to Bulldrake to target to banish this, and if I do that, they're still going to lose their board because you're going to get rid of the True Light, and the True Light's going to destroy their board. And this is a plus. You destroy spells and traps up to the number of normal monsters in your graveyard at +1. So as long as you have 1 Blue Eyes, you'll be popping 2, which is really kind of cool. So I got to deal with both of those. They banished this, and then because I hadn't used my True Light effect, I was able to activate True Light, bring back Blue Eyes, use the tuner on the board, make another Spirit Dragon, and push from there. Speaking of which, 2 Spirit Dragons and then 1 Ultimate. I made this like once. I do like it how it's kind of like a counter to Bestials. If they activate Bestials while you've got a Spirit Dragon on the board, you tag Spirit Dragon out into a Spirit Dragon, and the continuous effect means they can't banish, so their Bestial just stays in the hand. But very rarely did that come up. I then played the one-liner because I was expecting loads of... I wasn't expecting as many, but I was still expecting Blue Eyes matchups, so I went with the liner. And the best thing about liner is you would go liner, steal one of their lights from the graveyard, then make it SP Little Knight, and then banish their True Light. Obviously, True Light wouldn't trigger, but you still get rid of it because True Light is just such an incredibly powerful card. Like, every turn, yours and your opponent's either revive a Blue Eyes, which only ends up reviving the Maiden for a synchro play, or set a Blue Eyes spell trap that's different from one that's in the graveyard. So if you're banishing the first wishes to equip the Blue Eyes with the ultimate Neo, then you can set another wishes and go again. 2 Spirit Dragons, or Spirit with Eyes of Blue. There was only one matchup, which is the Structure Deck matchup, where I ran out of these, and that just because it turned into a massive grind game. We went through like 3 or 4 turns where we just top decking and passing because they got access to Called by the Grave and Called by my Blue Eyes. I was like, what the hell? Called my Blue Eyes so I couldn't revive it and just made it awkward. The 1 Heretic Seals and then the 1 Typhon just to kind of deal with the Ryzeal matchup. I was lucky enough to dodge all the Ryzeal, but then I wasn't lucky enough to dodge the Blue Eyes, and I was just like, okay, cool, we're going to see where this goes. So that's it for the entire extra deck. Moving on to the side deck. So for the side deck, I went with Triple Draw and Lockbird. I just feel that it puts in a lot of work. I knew that there was going to be Ryzeal there. I expected 1 or 2 Blue Eyes. I think I saw this against 1 Blue Eyes matchup and it did a bit of work, but other than that, I didn't really see it when I needed to. Artifact Lancia, I didn't know if Malice was going to turn up or not, so I went with 2 Lancia and 1 Sanctum. Ultimately, when I found out that the Malice player wasn't going to be there, I could have taken these out and they could have become Droplets or Book of Eclipses, which I wish I had played instead, because I probably would have got a bit more use out of them. And then I went with the Frost package, so I went with 2 Frosts, 2 Lightning Storms, just to deal with back row, because I felt that there could be control players there. I also felt that with True Light there, you kind of want to get rid of it, because if you Cosmic True Light, it doesn't nuke the board, whereas if you Lightning Storm it, it will. So that's what I kind of went for. I quite like the idea of maybe putting in 1 Lightning Storm and 1 evenly matched, but I'm undecided on that one yet. For the Ryzeal matchup, I went with Mischief rather than D-Barrier. Probably could have gone with D-Barrier because I feel that would have been more effective in the Blue Eyes matchup. But even then, if I was to put this in against Blue Eyes, you can still activate it, and then the Blue Eyes become level 7s, not 8s, so they can't get into their Synchro 9s. Makes it a little bit awkward, but not perfect. But the MVP of the side deck was definitely Solemn Strike. Like, this card put in so much work because so many people were prepared for, like, Imperms and Bluffs, that when I was able to go, they went to go Seals, I would go Strike, got rid of it. In a Madolche matchup, they went to activate the effect, I went Strike, got rid of it, and then it didn't really allow them to progress any further. And the best thing about this is they go Normal Summon Sage, and you go, cool, Strike. Unless they've hard opened up the Mausoleum, which is obviously going to be very tricky to do, they're not going to be able to extend any further. On top of that as well, is if they try to go into the Blue Eyes Link 1 to get to Mausoleum, or they go into the Blue Eyes Link 1 and then activate to search out Mausoleum, you know they don't have it. So you go, okay, cool, Strike. And then straight away, they lose their Link 1. Yes, they're no longer Dragon Locked, but then they still need to have the ability to get a Blue Eyes to the graveyard. They're not going to be able to search out the Mausoleum, and it kind of just bookends them, so they can't really go much further. So yeah, Strike put in a lot of work for me. So the biggest changes that I'd make is I would probably, unless the local environment has Malice in it, I would probably consider taking these out. But if there's more Malice, you'd keep these in. You'd probably lean into these a little bit heavier. I would probably, if I'm being honest, I actually quite like the idea of Chaos, the Chaos one instead. Just for the pure fact that the Chaos one stops cards from being banished in general. So it means even during my turn, if they're able to set up the Malice, the MTP07 to banish cards, they can't do it. So whereas Lance is just for that one turn. I feel that that could be a little bit better. But that's just something I need to do a bit more testing for. For the extra deck, I made SP once, and I'm quite happy with that, to be honest. Everything else I made once or twice. Typhon I didn't make at all. I didn't even make Sealed at all either, and I only made the liner once. So there's a couple of cards you can flex out if you wanted to, and it's one of the ones where when I activated Pot of Prosperity, I would get rid of the cards that I didn't expect to make. So if I didn't need to make Typhon, I would have made that. If I didn't make liner, and then kind of go for enough. If I felt I was going to OTK this turn, or as I had enough to kind of push in for the board, I'd probably get rid of the second Spirit Dragon as a risk. But very rarely did I ever do that. That was just like possible options that I could sacrifice down to see where it would go and see where it'd lead. Ultimately, that is it. I did enjoy this version of the deck. Like round 1, I wasn't too happy because it felt really rusty and I made some really bad misplays. But once I shook that dust off, the Primate matchup was kind of good. I bricked in game 3, which wasn't ideal, and then they played really well in game 2, because in game 2, what they did is they hard open. I think they hard opened up the Drill Beam, or they searched off the Drill. I think they went Normal Summon Beryl, and I was like, oh, you're on the Primate version. But then they went. I didn't see them search the Drill Beam because I'm pretty sure I negated the Beryl. But they basically set the Drill Beam, and then what they had to do is during the draw phases, they activated True Light, brought back the Blue Eyes, brought back the Maiden, and because they had the Drill Beam set, when I activated Lightning Storm, they went Drill Beam, negate the Lightning Storm. I was like, oh damn, Drill Beam will negate the Lightning Storm. So they played that really, really well. Like I wish I had opened up like a Ghost Ogre at that point, because if I had, I'd just Ghost Ogre the True Light, and then from that point on, there's no Primite for them to reveal. There's no Blue Eyes that you know of. So then I might have been able to go, cool, Lightning Storm, get rid of the back row completely, or get rid of the monsters and then push him for game. But yeah, they played that really, really well to play around Lightning Storm or a Duster that they were more worried about. So that was kind of cool. Yeah, everything else, like the Yubel matchup was kind of weird because I won the dice roll. They opened up incredibly well. Like they opened up Fluoros, and I decided not to give them any draws at all. And they opened up Magnamute. So they went Magnamute, Search that Druid Swarm, and then I interacted with them a couple times. They opened up Cross Out for my Imperm, which was slightly annoying because like, cool, you've eaten my Imperm. And they were basically able to win that one from there. Then game 2, I went first, made the Macabre and Spirit play. They Fluoros me as well, but this time I was like, you know what, I'll give you 2 draws. So I gave them the Spirit draw and the Macabre draw, and then they had a Ghost Bell, which stopped my Blue Eyes coming back from the grave from the Spirit Dragon, which is slightly annoying, but at least I tributed off the Spirit Dragon so that I was out of the Dragon Lock. And then they opened up, they had also got Perulia, so they had Fluoros Bell, and then they ended up getting Magnamute, which led them to Druid Swarm. They also had Samsara D Lotus and Cross Out, and I was like, okay, well, I can't really do a lot about that in game 1. Game 2, they impermed the Macabre. I still had the Spirit Dragon, and I was able to kind of like just hold out, negate, and then when I went to the battle phase, I went battle phase, attack with Macabre, dropped 2 Alistairs to make it 4-5, and then that pushed in for game. And then game 3, they went combo. I impermed Yama, which meant they had to go into the Muckraker. They then got Nightmare Pain. I Ghost Ogre Nightmare Pain. Even though they had Phantom on the board, they forgot to Phantom the Ghost Ogre, which kind of, like, my hand was okay, but time was getting close to us. As soon as they became Fiend Lock, they couldn't go into Good Stuff Max, so there was no burn damage, and then only went into a draw. Yeah, so that was pretty much it. Like I said, there was a lot of different variants there today of Blue Eyes, which was quite interesting to see, and it was nice that none of them were exactly the same. First place was Blue Eyes Primate Bestial, second place was Ryzeal, third place was this one. I then believe that it was Yubel at 4th, and 5th was I think was the Buster Blader version, which was really kind of cool to see someone else pilot it in action. Anyway, I hope this has given you an idea of their own build on updates as well that I've made, some of the changes that I've done. I wanted to give you as much information as I possibly could around this and kind of give you a highlight of where the Invoked version could go. If you have any questions at all, comments down below. More than happy to answer them as always. But for now, stay safe and of course, happy dueling.